Dear brothers and sisters, as we look at all of us as human beings, ever since human beings came on this earth, we've all wanted to explore, and that's where we travel. Wherever we live, we're familiar with the arena. We spend time wherever we live, so we're very familiar with whatever happens in the arena, where the sceneries are, where all the good places are that we enjoy visiting. But we're unaware of what is in other lands. And so, as human beings, right from the beginning, there was this inquisitiveness to travel, to explore new lands, and to be able to learn from the new areas. And so we find that human beings, in the beginning would go by foot and travel far away from where they were. And as time went by, they started using animals, friendly animals, to take them from one place to another. And then the human beings developed the wheel, so that they could go faster and they could go further in their travels. Traveling has always made us feel happier. And this is why today, when we have a vacation, we generally don't want a vacation in the area that we live. Let's say we live in the Chicagoland area, then we want a vacation maybe in Hawaii or in Florida, or we might want to vacation in Europe, or see the North Lights. We vacation in, maybe Australia or other states rather than Illinois. You might go to New York or Washington or some other area, because we feel we need to see something new. So there's this urge to see something new which we feel will make us happy. And then, with time, we find that many times when we want to travel, we are unable to do so. It could be that there's a physical disability, a physical pain, there's a sickness that we've got, or someone very close to us is not feeling well and we need to take care of them. It's possible that we have financial difficulties, we're unable to travel. It's also possible that the times are such that maybe just like we had the pandemic in the last few years, that traveling outside was becoming very dangerous, because by traveling outside we could pick up viruses and illnesses from others. And so there are times in one's life when we are unable to travel. And most people who are used to traveling, when they can't travel, when they can't get out of the house, it becomes very difficult for them. They get into a depressive mode. They feel they're stuck, as many went through the pandemic. And so we start to just get in a downward spiral. The reason I'm talking about traveling today is that none of us worry if we can't travel on the outside. None of us should worry if we can't get to a new place, because there is always travel available to us wherever we are and whatever situation we're in. And those are the inner travels. Those are the travels which take us to beautiful lands. Those are the travels which make us hear music like we've never heard before. Whenever we go on a vacation, we want to go party, want to go to places where you can have nice music, or see nice sceneries, or see sunrises or sunsets, or waves in the ocean. And so it's like gratification at our level of sight, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of smell, and other senses. So it's the outer senses that get gratification when we travel on the world outside. But when we travel on the inside, what we experience is not with our outer eyes. What we hear is not by our outer ears. And so the joys within are such that they bring happiness, calm, and peace to our soul, to our real self. And that travel is one which brings joy and peace, not only for the time that we were traveling, but for long periods of time later on too. And the beauty of that travel is that irrespective of whatever our financial situation, irrespective of whatever physical situation, irrespective of whatever emotion states are, we all can travel from wherever we are. We don't need to go to quote-unquote holy places to be able to experience the divine. We don't need to physically be in a certain part of the world to be able to enjoy the revelations of the divine which unfold within each and every one of us. And so it is those travels that we hear saints and mystics talk about through their experiences. We always hear about communion with God. So how do you commune with God? God is not a physical entity that you can go and talk to God. And we talk to human beings. There are certain people who learn how to talk to animals. Once who are close to them, they get very friendly, they get all the signs, they know how to convey to them whatever needs to be conveyed. But how do you talk to God? If there was a physical entity, if there was something bound, if you had boundaries around something, then we could reach there. But God is not in the physical. God is a state of consciousness. God is spiritual, with no boundaries. And unless we ourselves can rise to that level, we cannot commune with God. We know there are many faiths and religions in this world, which started after the teachings of a great saint or a mystic. And they all talked about their experience with God. And so it's very interesting, if they could have experiences in those times, and most of the religions, faiths have been, the latest one is 500 years ago, but others been thousands of years ago. That experience that they had in those days, why can't we have that experience too? Because God is equally available to each and every one of us. It's not like the domain of one part of the world, or a domain of one society, or a domain of a certain culture, which have wrapped all their arms around God, and God is not available to anyone else. And when we go on our journey in the inner worlds, that's when the revelation of divine starts to come into our lives. And as we experience that, then within ourselves, the connection which needs to be made at the level of our soul, at our true self, at the level of our soul with God, starts to happen. Because as we find the closeness of God, we find that life becomes calm and peaceful by itself. God wants us to be perpetually happy. God wants us to experience God, and that's why we have this human existence. It is said that in all of creation, the human body is the roof and crown of their creation. And it is mentioned by the saints and mystics that in the human body, the faculties that are required by us to know ourselves have been provided. So once those faculties have been provided to us, it is for us to make use of those faculties so that we can experience for ourselves the realities of our true existence. And so what faculty is provided in a human being which is not provided in other living forms? Each one of us has right here an opening, a gateway called the spiritual eye, the single eye, the third eye, the Shiv Netra, the Dasmadwar, the Nukta Safeda. It has different names in different languages. A doorway that opens into the worlds inside of us. A doorway that opens into the spiritual regions within. A doorway which, when we cross, we find ourselves in a land of joy, in a land of bliss, and in a land in which we are kind of wonderstruck. I'm sure many of us read about Alice in Wonderland, and we read about someone going up a ladder or something and getting into other worlds, and there are all these stories we read when we were young. They ended in those lands which are very, very beautiful. Okay? But nothing which comes out of the imagination of a human being, which is what stories are all about, compares to what the reality is. And so, as we dig deep into these inner lands, we see beauty which is more beautiful than what we saw before. We hear music like we've never heard before. Our states at the emotional level are such that we are totally blissed out. is happiness all around us, that nothing is there that troubles us or bothers us. And when we find ourselves to be in that state, then in every pore of our being is full of so much joy that life seems to be lived at a level much, much, much better than what we are living today. Each and every one of us has our own karmic place to go through. And so each one of us is having ups and downs in life. There are moments when we physically are not well, there are moments when we emotionally are not well, there are moments when intellectually we're not well, and there are moments when we're spiritually not well. So this happens to each and every one of our lives based on what our past karmic loads are like. Okay. But when we rise above all that stuff, and when our attention is not in the world outside, because all the karma that we have is played on the world outside. Okay? And whether it's good or bad, whether we reap the rewards for what we did well, or we're going through when we have to take care of all that we did that wasn't good. All of that is happening in the world outside. Okay? As soon as we enter the world inside, there's like a blanket put on all that stuff. And so the journeys within, where our soul is connected with what is called the divine current of light and sound of God, which is the energy that is bringing beauty into our life, which is the energy which is bringing beautiful sounds into our life, which is the current which emanated from the Creator, and that current of light and sound of God is what takes us back to the Creator, brings us closer and closer to God, so that we do have a communion with God. As we take steps on the journey, we find that every day as we sit to meditate, our experiences with time are revealing more and more of the world's inside. And the more we experience them, the more in awe we are, because we cannot expect what we're going to be experiencing. And so when you experience something like you've never seen before, let's say you've never seen a big waterfall, okay? And you go to the Niagara Falls, and you go there and you look at it, and all of a sudden you say, wow, because you've never seen anything like that before. And that expression comes automatically. It's not that you have to learn to say wow because you're at the Niagara Falls, it just happens by itself. So similarly, when we go on the inner journey and we have all these revelations coming to us, we're so enchanted. We are so happy. Our real self, our soul is recognizing that it's in a state which is fulfilling to it. And so the soul no longer is in the clutches of the mind. Okay? The soul is coming into its own. And when the soul is coming into its own, then the characteristics of the soul, which are godly characteristics, because our soul is a part of God. So our soul is full of love and light of God. Our soul is truthful. Our soul is conscious. And all of those traits are coming out. And so when those traits are becoming stronger and stronger in our being, then we find that our life is lived in a purely spiritual manner that it was designed to be lived in. God has given this his human existence to be with God, to know God, to get off the wheel of transmigration. And that's the sole purpose, that our soul has come into human existence. It says God graced that out of the 8.4 million species, that God picked our soul and gave it a human existence. As we experience our soul, it is then that true life starts to be lived. All of the stuff that we live on the world outside is just to deal with the karmic stuff. True existence, true life comes into play when one goes on the spiritual journey. Yeah. And even on the spiritual journey, we need guidance, just like we need guidance to learn anything in the world outside. I mean, as a child we go to school, we have teachers who teach us languages, and then as we get up in the grades, we learn maths and science and, all kinds of other subjects. And so people who specialize in those become good teachers for us. And they guide us, so we learn those things. So similarly, in the spiritual arena, we get guidance from a saint or a mystic, or someone who's gained in that arena. And as we find guidance from them, guidance which first comes through explanation of what life is all about, which might happen through the writings, which might happen through their word of mouth, their satsangs or talks. So we get like a mental awareness of what our relationship with the Creator is. And any mental awareness, any intellectual knowledge is just on the outside to still our mind. Each and every faith wants us to meet God. They might have slightly different methods, but the inner side of the faith is all one and the same. And that's the inner side of a faith which deals with the spirit, which deals with the soul, which deals with the travels of a soul, which deals with consciousness. The outer signs are different, Do we ring a bell? Do we light a candle? What do we do when we go to places of worship? Those are all outside signs. But when you look at after whom those faiths were made, these were saints and mystics who commune with God, and who talked about it, and who showed us the way so that we also can commune with the Lord too. And that is the inner side of the faith. And that might look like techniques are different, but they are very, very similar. You need to still the body, you need to still the mind. And as the body is stilled and the mind is stilled, and we get to a state where no thoughts are going to be coming to us, we learn how to get to that state, then we start to experience the unfoldment of the divine power which is giving us life. As long as the soul is in the human body, we are alive. When the soul leaves the body for good, never to come back in the human body, then we say this person physically dead. We bury them or we cremate them based on our traditions. So the key is to be able to experience our soul as we are physically alive. Because once we are physically dead, we don't have any control of where our soul is going to end up. But while we are in the physical body, we know that the soul is here. Because we know if it's gone for good, the body is not there anymore. As long as we're physically alive, that's the time to experience ourselves. And this is why many times this technique of meditation is called dying while living. That while we are living in the human body, when we are in what is called living as we are physically alive, that we withdraw from the world outside, we focus our attention within, we take our sensory currents, which are what are having our senses, which take our attention, which is the outer expression of our soul, and put it in the world outside. So we bring those sensory currents within us. We collect them here at the seat of the soul, so that with help and guidance, we're able to unfold the inner regions within. So let us just have a little meditative practice, or just for a few minutes. So you can try the practice. Sit as comfortably as you can. Close your eyes very gently, just like you close them when you go to sleep. Your eyeball should be straight, focused 8 to 10 inches in front of you, and as you close your eyes, those of you who have been initiated in the mysteries of the beyond, please do a Simran. And those of you who are new here, please repeat any name of God that you feel comfortable with. This repetition of God's name should be done mentally and not out loud. I pray to God Almighty and to the three great spiritual masters of the past century, Hazur Baba Savan Singh Ji Maharaj, Param Sant Kripal Singh Ji Maharaj, and Dayalpur Sundarshan Singh Ji Maharaj, to help each and every one of us connect with the divine power and for us to experience the divine light of God within ourselves. You might experience flashes of light, circles of lights, lights of various colors in the beginning. Just keep your gaze right in the middle of the experience. Every time, the lights to you will look like they will have stabilized. Actually, the light of God is within you. It's not coming from the outside. When you're distracted, you experience darkness. When you're concentrated, you experience light. And so, with time, as your concentration improves more and more and more, you're going to experience the light more and more and more. And to you, it'll seem like, okay, the light is stabilized. And then, with time, you'll go beyond the lights, the sky full of stars, in a moon and a sun. So, please gaze in the middle of your experience, and then many, many, many other vistas will open up for you. We'll be sitting for a few minutes. I'll be getting out of this meditative state at that time, and my best wishes are with each and every one of you. Please leave off. Please leave off.